content. I'm sure in Russia, as in my own country, there are clubs where the thrill is on the sensory input, the beat of the music, the brightness of the lights, the sound of the music, not the words or the meaning of the words, not the past or the future. In fact, one has let oneself go, we say in English. We're having a sensational time. You don't say, let's go out and have a cognitive time. So one could say that this is raw feeling. I don't think these people are doing much thinking. And one could therefore think of the two different modes that ever since we've stalked the planet, we've put ourselves in. You could call it mindless and meaningful. On the one hand, strong feelings. On the other, thinking dominating. On the left, strongly sensory. On the right, cognitive. Mindless, you're in the here and now, yuck and wow, and you're living for the moment. The meaningful is that you have a past, a present, and a future, or a fantasy. In the mindless state, you are having distractions from the outside world, it's dominating, whereas in the meaningful state, although you're interacting with the world, it's in a way where you're evaluating it in terms of what's happened in the past and what you hope will happen in the future. In the mindless state, there is a reduced sense of self. You've let yourself go, you've blown your mind. Whereas in the meaningful state, there's a very strong sense of self. You are the continuous feature. It is your life story that you are enacting. In the mindless state, there is no space or time, you're just in the moment. In the meaningful state, there is a clear space-time reference, there's episodes. In the mindless state, it's mainly infants and children, or indeed animals. In the meaningful state, it's mainly older children and adults. The mindless state is more dopamine. The meaningful is less dopamine, although what we can do as adults is we can, by putting ourselves in environments of wine, women and song, of drugs and sex and rock and roll, we can disable the connections between our brain cells so that we have blown our minds, however temporarily. And my concern is that although we've done this ever since we've evolved as a species, and we've had this balance between letting yourself go and developing an identity, that now what we're doing with computer games is devising an environment that shifts us asymmetrically to stay in this mindless state, if you like, which of course will match up with an under-functioning prefrontal cortex. So here we are, this is from Euripides, the Bacchae, a play where this poor king Pentheus is torn apart by women who are worshipping the wine god Dionysus, because he doesn't adhere to this idea you need a balance in life. They're having a sensational time. People let themselves go in different ways. Here you can see whitewater rafting. I'm sure these people are not worried about the exams that are coming up at the moment, and they're not thinking metaphorically. Whitewater is whitewater, and you know, the breeze on your face is the breeze on your face. And similarly in Australia, here hovercraft fun rides where, note the selling point is to be totally out of control, to have let yourself go, to be the passive recipient of your senses. So we know that people do this all the time. Now that scenario, some people could claim, is surely related to creativity. And this is an interesting thought. Kind of people that might paint pictures or be creative are children. And we know that their connections are still growing. Schizophrenics are renowned for writing poetry or, as we've seen, painting pictures. And they have dysfunctional connections due, as we've seen, to the excessive amounts of dopamine inhibit their prefrontal cortex. We know that drugs impair connections, and yet people on drugs often say they're being highly creative. But these conditions do not guarantee creativity. I'm sure one can know of children or people that have taken drugs or who are schizophrenic who are not creative at all. And I'm sure that you may know of creative people who are not children, not schizophrenics, and don't take drugs. So I think this shows us a possible link, but one that may be necessary without being sufficient and can be reached in different ways, where one is challenging dogma, deconstructing the world, not seeing automatic associations between one thing and something else. So there we are. The first could be a premium on deconstructing to abstract sensations, to seeing the world not as a bottle of water, not as a glass, but as a series of textures and light that you can deconstruct and then try and reproduce on canvas. We also know that you then have to have unusual associations. Schizophrenics will have what's called word salads, that's to say unusual words that come together. Artists will paint things that are unusual, that you're not used to seeing. So let's think about that. Why is this painting by the 4-year-old Phoebe Collins, she was 4 when she painted this, of a sheep. Why is this not a work of art? What Phoebe has done is to paint an unusual sheep with a funny coloured body and no feet and a different coloured face, and yet this is not hanging in any art gallery anywhere in the world, whereas this one by Damien Hirst is a very famous sheep in formalin that of course is hailed as a work of art by some. So what is the difference between these two sheep? Why is Phoebe's sheep not a work of art? Damien Hirst's sheep is, even though in both cases they've challenged dogma, rather like you might in science challenge dogma, rather like the designer of the mini car challenged dogma, where he said, let's put the engine in the back of the car. Why have it in the front of the car? You challenge dogma all the time, but what you must then do is do unusual associations. Both of them have done this. So what's the difference? Well, what I'd like to suggest to you is the difference is that Hirst's sheep, but not Phoebe's sheep, has shown that these new associations can activate more extensive associations, so they have a meaning in the self and in others. And what that means is that suddenly you see the world in a new way. Suddenly you can see a person, or a sheep even, in a way that you never saw that sheep before. In the case of science or in literature, you suddenly have an idea about life that you never had before. But it's not enough that it's something new or unusual. It has to tap into a meaning, and by doing that, it has to recruit new associations between your brain cells. So neuronal connections, remember we said at the beginning, give connections an even deeper meaning, as with the candle. So how does that help us understand the world around us? Well, here one can see just very loosely an idiosyncratic, a personal series of associations that give the world a meaning. And these are connections, if you like, in space, where you can see one thing in terms of something else. But for me, thinking involves connections over time. And do you remember I said earlier, thinking is movement confined to the brain. So perhaps this could be the essence of thinking. Thinking always has a time sequence. Here you can see a rational argument showing that 2 equals 1. Or you can have a business plan, beginning, a middle, and an end. Or you can have a little story where you start at the beginning and you go to the end. Whatever happens, you're always going beginning, middle, end. There's always a sequence of steps. One thing leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. You can't access it at random. It always has to be a sequence, like a sentence is a sequence, like chapters are in a sequence. Books are in sequences. That's what a story is. That's what your life is. And this is a shameless plug for 2 of my books which say that, and which have, the one on the right has come on, yes, the right has come out recently, the other one is still in print. You can see your life like this. You don't randomly go through these stages, that one will lead to the next and lead to the next. As you go from childhood to courtship, to your work, to eventually to retirement, all this is making you the unique person that you are. You can't reverse those things, you can't muddle up the order of those things. So this, in a way, is what we call cognition. This is what thinking is. It's following a particular sequence, telling you a story, and that story gives you your identity. So if stories are essential then for creative insight, because this needs meaning, so for spatial sequences, something will have to have a significance. It enables thinking because you have to have temporal sequences. It gives you an identity, that is to say, a meaning over time. And that is why the print and broadcast media are so essential, because I think what you're in the business of doing, ultimately, whether it's fact or fiction, is you are in the business of telling stories. Thank you.